Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this video I want to show y'all how I make this style of fused glass cabochon. I don't really know what to call it, but it's a combination of opaque, like, well no, let's just get started and you can kind of see, and actually leave a comment down in the comments. What do you think we should call this style of cabochon? Because I really like it, but I am tapped out as far as clever names go. Hey guys, welcome to our glass studio. Today I want to show you how I make these fused glass cabochons. Well, they're kind of, they got a hole in them, but the concept remains the same for whatever you're making. Oh, and there's a cat on my air conditioner. Okay, hey Callie. Yeah, you're a good girl. Just like I gotta let the cat in. Okie dokie. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is, if you're following along with this and using ceramic molds, is go ahead and prime them with like 4 layers of zip. It's a boron nitride mold release that works really well in high temperatures. And I try to get it from every single angle because I want all the faces of our mold to be well coated. And I try to clean our molds, if not in between every single firing, in between at least, like I'll do a firing, spray a bit more, like, and then do another firing and then clean the molds. And we just clean them with like a stiff bristle brush. We'll get in there and clean all the fired release out. Now you can use, you can use like kiln wash, but you can't, you kind of have to pick one or the other. Like if you use zip on any of your molds, you can, as far as I'm aware, never go back to using kiln wash. And I don't know if you can get away with using kiln wash first and then transferring over to using zip. I don't know. I haven't been bold enough to try it because I don't want to, risk buggering up my molds. But just, I don't know, there's some really great forums online that go more in depth about that, but let's go ahead and get started. So just what I do is I've just used zip right from the get-go. It's in a really easy aerosol can. Very nice. And so the colors that we're using today are medium opal white. Now opal doesn't mean opalescent like how you're used to. Like when I hear the word opal, I think of how these dichroic flakes look in the piece, or this is what I think of exactly whenever I hear the term opal. So the first time I was buying glass, all of these colors that said opal on them, I was like, yes, so much shiny, and that's not the case. I was so disappointed, but still, fused glass is fun. This is how the white looks. The white opal medium-sized frit looks after it's been fired down. The larger of a frit that you go with, the bigger of that color block you're going to have in your final piece. So you could go with like a coarse-sized frit. Like I think, as far as I'm aware, it's like powder, fine, medium, coarse, mosaic. Like powder being the finest, mosaic being the chunkiest. But that's just, I've only been ordering from like Oceanside in Wismach, like, so, super durable, whoopsie. Be sure to do your research because it may vary, but I like going with a medium-sized grit, which they tend to be about that big. I don't really know how to measure that. They're quite small actually, but there's still distinctive chunks of it. So I'm going to do 2 side by side because I'd like to compare the difference between if we cap it with coarse grain versus mosaic grain sized glass on top, just to kind of side by side see if there's a difference. So I'm going to come through here. A better teacher, I've said this before, but a better teacher would actually measure out how many grams this is. I don't know, let me go get my mold. We'll do it this time. Y'all, I have never actually measured how much glass I used before, so this is going to be very interesting. I'm just using a food scale. Hopefully it'll register, and I'm going to put it onto grams. make sure we're zeroed out. That way it's not like counting the weight of the scale of the mold. Okay, pardon me, I've got the sniffles. It's an allergy sort of day. And I'm going to come through, and I'm using a relatively level teaspoon scoop. There's 1 and 2. And I'm lumping over the thing in the middle just because I'm lazy, but I'll show you here in a sec how we get that cleared off. So that was 6 to 7 grams. I think a more sensitive scale would be pertinent. And that's going to give us a really nice layer on the bottom because right now, since everything I'm using is kind of transparent, and what I'm shooting for here is getting all that cool veining in between the pieces with the fine-grained light purple. Now, I'd like to do this in every color scheme for in our shop. That way we have a very nice like selection. It's looking like it's sitting at 7 grams. And so this is a dash. How many chicken nuggets is that? I don't know. Yeah, it's a dash. But I think this is actually like, I don't know. Not very much. It's a dash, okay? Like, oh boy. I guess it's good that we're actually measuring things. I've got a friend who's a scientist who I can see her just shaking her head at me right now because she like works in a lab and is very like concise and good at measuring things. Like, I don't think she's ever once just shrugged and started dumping stuff into a thing, which is my standard form. Excuse me. Okay, so now I'm coming through with a very soft bristled brush and smoothing that away from the surface. And that was just 1 more gram of glass. So you can see here, hopefully, how it's kind of bunched together. And we may be able to take this and settle that a little bit more in between some of the larger frit. And so, and I always cap off my bottles of frit because I do not want to risk wrecking it because I'm very clumsy and I will knock stuff over. Okay, so this is not the original bottle. This was like a pale blue transparent that I like cleaned out, and then I use it to store all of my dichro frit, which I have a combination of medium and coarse grit frits in here. I like Dichro Magic, though it is fully compatible with, what is it, CIM or something. I know there's like a couple of different brands of Dichro on the market, and so far, as long as they're all 96 COE, which is the coefficient of expansion, the techniques that I'm using work for different COEs. Just never mix your COEs together because they're just not compatible. You'll get a lot of cracking in your glass. But between the different brands, like I use like 2 to 4 different brands of glass at any different time. But as long as they have that COE and they've been compatibility, as long as they've been tested for compatibility. There we go. Oh man, that was a hard one. Then you should be fine. Moving on. So I've got another dash here of dichro that I am just sprinkling in. I'm going to do 2 dashes because I like me some dichro. And so that brought us up another 2 or 3 grams of dichro. That's quite a bit of dichro, but it's super pretty. And if you skimp on it, then it'll just kind of look like one pretty spot, like over in the corner or something. So now from here, hey pretty kitty, I am just coming through and kind of touching my dichro to keep it away from the edges, because let me see if I have any examples here. No, I did a good job on this one of not letting any. Okay, here it is. If the dichro is close to the edge, the metallic layer will actually float and come to the top and come around. And that's not the worst thing. It's just sometimes that's not exactly what I'm going for. You can see it happened again right there. And on pieces like this, like I post these ones up for sale on our website. That way, and I'll try to have multiple pictures. Please pardon the paint on my hands. It's been a very busy day in the craft room so far, and the day has barely begun. But, and I'll have multiple angles of pictures. That way people can see and know what they're getting. But, it's just something that if I'm doing a custom piece for somebody, I'll be like, do you hate that? Or, and try to work with them. I prefer the dichro being all trapped inside because I think that looks super pretty and it really shows it off with like the doming and dimension and stuff. The cat found her toy. So to avoid that dichro floating up, though sometimes, even my best efforts, sometimes it just happens. So now I'm going to come through with the coarse grain. Oh, my scale fell asleep. Okay. Well, I guess I took too long talking. So we were at like, what, 11 grams? Let's see if maybe we can zero this back out. No, these apparently aren't the same weight. Okay, never mind. We were at, I'm pretty sure, 11 grams. So we'll just do more math at the end and I'll talk less next time. So I'm doing a scoop here. And I kind of like the coarse because whenever I'm working with dichro, I can get it between the dichro and the edge of the mold a little bit more easily. Now, the smaller of a frit size that you use, the more surface area there is. So, like per volume, I don't know. Not a scientist. But I just know that the smaller the frit size you use, the more bubbles you potentially end up with. Now, I personally actually love bubbles in my work, so I don't mind it a bit. But some folks want like super high clarity and stuff, and and I get that. So I tend to not go lower than a coarse frit. And if I poured just like clear powder in here, it would look hazy from all the bubbles. So powder sized or fine sized can get you a whole bunch of bubbles. And that's even if I do a bubble squeeze segment on my kiln, which is just a different firing schedule that's supposed to let all the air out first. I know a lot of folks get kind of intimidated by the firing schedules and stuff like that. And once I figured out how to program my kiln, I set it for one program that was recommended by like a tutorial on Delphi glass, and I've left it there for a year. So I use basically the same firing schedule for everything because all of what I do is a full fuse. So don't let that part be scary or intimidating for you, because so long as you have a kiln or something that's programmable, it's not as huge of a deal. Like, you can make it more complicated or more of a big deal and probably get much better results than what I get, but I figure if I can do it, you can do it. So we've got this, y'all. So I'm kind of just mounding it up around again, trying to keep everything away from the edges and from the sides as much as I can. Points for effort. And now sometimes, if I weren't doing an experiment for contrasting the effects that we get, I would then come through with like some big pieces out of the mosaic grain frit, or I would chunk up some clear glass and lay on some pieces like that just to give it even more glass. But I really wanted to compare the effects between using the coarse and the mosaic as much as possible. So I'm just placing some little grains. Now I'm going to get you a view from the side. This is sitting at 15 grams, so that's our running total so far is 26 grams of glass. And this is how it is looking from the side. So you can kind of see how much over the top edge it's coming in depth. Not the fullest I've ever filled, but that's all right. Now, if you get too skimpy, I'm going to add just a little bit more because it's hovering at 14 now instead of at 15. Oh, and it just turned off. Crap. Okay. Well, there's that. But if you skimp too much on how much glass you put in, glass wants to puddle. Like if you put just whoop, that little bit of glass onto like your kiln shelf that's been kiln washed, or and you fuse it, it's going to bloop, blob up into like a little water droplet looking, its surface tension whenever it's in its full liquid form like that is going to pull it back into that shape. So whenever we're filling a mold, you want there to be enough that its surface tension forces it out of its little round happy spot into the sides. And anything with corners for me is exceptionally challenging because it'll come out like very rounded, but that's okay if that happens. You can just spray your mold, put your piece back in there, put a little bit more glass in there, and fuse it again, and it'll be like it never happened. It just doubles the amount of time that your piece is in the kiln. So yeah, so this one was at, what did we say, 26? So call it 25 or 26 because it went to sleep on me. Oof. Okay, I'm going to do this next one much faster, a lot less talking. I'm going to throw it together and see what happens. That way the stinking scale doesn't fall asleep on me. Hopefully y'all haven't fallen asleep on me. Okay, and I forget how much I put in of the glass. I think it was 8 grams of glass. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so 2 teaspoons. Give it a little shaky shake. Now we're going to come in and do, I think, what was it, 3 more grams of the purple. Or no, it was like 1 gram of purple and then like 2 or 3 grams. I don't know. I don't remember. I just work here. And I am just shaking this out like it's garlic salt on a steak. Sorry, I haven't had breakfast yet. So, maybe it was just 1 gram? Was it any grams? Okay, so there's 1 gram of our fine powder, like, is not even recognizable little granules with your naked eyeballs. Like, it is so little. I haven't tried this powder yet. Maybe we should, just to see. So I'm going to take it and kind of smack it a bit just to settle it. There we go. And now we are going to bring it up to 11 grams with our dichro. I'm going to do a little more dichro. So there's that. Woo, it came up to 12. I think that'll be fine. That will be all right. Also, just going to say, keeping track, like, again, I should have a clipboard and, like, be actually taking notes on this, not only so my pieces could be replicable, but so that I could be actually tracking the cost of material on... Oh, hey, pretty kitten. Oh, I love you. So I could track the price of material for all my pieces and make sure that I'm not underselling myself. That's, to me, that's the least fun part about crafting dough. And I'm going to poke it, that way it doesn't fall asleep. And we are going to come through now and cap it with coarse grain. For it. Not coarse, mosaic. And what were we at? 26? I think is what we had. So already you can kind of see these pieces just take up more space, like each one does. So we have the same exact amount. Wow, this is kind of fun. I actually really like measuring it. What? I did not think I would like that, but now I feel, I don't know, like I need a lab coat or something. I'm going to try to scooch all this stuff away from the sides as much as possible. Okay. So it looks like we have like a gram or more in this one. So we can take one out. We'll take a little piece out. It went back down to 26. Okay, cool. So I am going to get... No, it went back up to 27. Oh, no. It back down to... Oh, well. It's close enough. Let's get a view from the side. So you can see my zip was dripping. But that's it from the side. That looks pretty good. I'm trying to keep stuff away from the sides as much as possible. Certainly don't want to cover up that little part in the middle. I want to make sure all of our dichro is covered. That way it's not being exposed. And so while I've shown it in other tutorials, I am going to show you guys how our kiln looks when I have it fully loaded for doing a big batch of cabs like this. And then I'll run it through its firing schedule, which will be down in the video description. And then I'll show you guys, I'll see you guys back here. So this is how the kiln looks loaded. The pieces that we made are there in the bottom, and then I'm using kiln posts to hold up a kiln shelf with more molds up top. So I'm going to get this on firing, and I'll be back tomorrow and show you guys how it comes out. So it is the following day, and this is how the top layer came out. And Randy, if you could scooch that over for me. And this, ooh, yes, that's how those guys look. Oh, wow. Okay, so we have some soapy water here, and we want to get all of the boron nitride off of our pieces. These guys came out pretty clean out of the mold, which is atypical. But that is how they came out looking. And this is how they come out after washing. You can see the opaque layer in the back with a little bit of that cool patterning from the fine grain translucent. And then we had some floating and puckering from the dichro, but I actually think that just gives it more character. It's still super durable. We don't have to worry about them breaking or anything on us because they're properly annealed. And on this one that wasn't shown in the tutorial, but sorry for the blurry, there we go, but that was used with the same technique but without the dichro, you can actually see the bubbles a little bit better, and I really like how this technique comes out. So if y'all have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. If you enjoy our free tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them, beyond liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff, please consider joining our Craft Along Club for as little as $1 a month or $12 a year. That really goes a long way in helping us to produce these tutorials. Also, we have our Craft Along kits through the Craft Along Club. And also we sell our handmade cabochons on our website, backtoearthcreations.com. If you'd like to share pictures of the work that you've made using either our tutorials or our cabs or just in general, please tag us on Instagram, or share pictures to our Facebook wall. Again, all the links are down below. And until next time, y'all, happy crafting. Mwah! Bye.